Super cool radio.
Hello, everyone. I am Matthew Thomas. This is Super Cool Radio. My guest at this time is the guitarist and lead vocalist of Red Brick Road. Very recently, they released a killer new single entitled I Am the Fear. Making his third appearance, please welcome Jake Jones.
I was doing a peace sign, but now I'm going to do a 3 for third appearance.
There you go. Yes. Thank you so much for hanging out with me, Jake Jones from Detroit, Michigan. As I said, third time here, second time digitally, and we had one in person at a venue. Unfortunately, it's closed down, but it was cool to actually do an interview there.
Yeah, that place was cool. I liked Smith's a lot, you know.
A lot of stairs.
Yeah, I was gonna say that. I was gonna say that was the only negative to the place was a lot of stairs, and I don't know how many people out there I'm sure any other musicians listening have carried an amplifier up at least some amount of stairs, but that place was like 3 stories up.
Yeah, it was 2 flights of stairs, and like the first one was like a huge. I mean, it was a cool venue. I really liked the whole the scene there, but unfortunately, due to some issues, it had to close. But I mean, it was cool to actually say I did an interview at Smith's, though.
Yeah, that is cool. Yeah, it was cool. We did that. And like that place was cool. They had a cool scene there. I met a lot of people that night, some of which I still keep in contact with and stuff. You know, it seemed like they're definitely a place around town that was, you know, they helped really perpetuate the local scene. So I don't know what happened with them, but it sucks that they had to close. But I'm sure it's all goes into technical stuff. I heard some rumors, but I'm not gonna speak on it because I don't know what actually happened. But yeah, them damn stairs, man. I remember getting my amp up the first set of stairs, and I was like, oh, I finally made it. And I turned the corner, and there's just another one. I feel like that place is the best metaphor for being a musician too. You climb all these stairs, and you're like, okay, I'm there. It's time for the show, and then you got, you know, another 25 stairs to go.
Yeah, it was definitely unique in that atmosphere, but it was cool, and honestly, I liked the stage for it. They had a nice setup.
Oh yeah, they did. It was cool. They had the 2 stages. The one downstairs I could see being better for like the karaoke and acoustic, which it was mostly for. But yeah, no, they had a really nice setup there.
Definitely, for sure. But let's dive into this interview. As I said, much to unpack. Obviously, the new single, I Am the Fear. Plus, we got some cool stuff in there. Plus, I'm going to dive in because someone makes a cameo in that music video, but we're going to get to that in a second. So, as I said, new single, I Am the Fear. How was it writing and recording I Am the Fear?
Yeah, writing it was quite a process, actually. That was one that was kind of how do I put it? Like sometimes like with songs, it's like sit down, write it, get it done. That one was kind of more of like a jam that kind of progressed into a song, at least musically, at least to speak. It wasn't like exactly like, okay, it was like, okay, this is gonna be a song because this is like really cool guitar riffs and stuff, but it wasn't like I don't know why it just wasn't like, hey, day one, let's like, you know, try to get this polished and make it a song. It was kind of something that just got played a lot until it did become a song. And it's one of the only ones too that like I didn't sit down and like write lyrics for. I kind of just kept singing different stuff at practice until I found lyrics I liked for it, and they all were cohesive and made sense. And then I sat down and edited them even more to make them even more cohesive and make sense. So that part of it was kind of cool. It's not really how I prefer to write, but it worked out all right. Just because I like continuity and cohesiveness. So that's why I say I don't really prefer to write that way, at least lyrically, because I think it worked out though, because the song, you know, is about struggling with different anxiety and depression issues and stuff. So I think having so many different times of life kind of put into those lyrics kind of helped out that factor of it. But yeah, we were working on that song for like probably a good year before anything really was made of it. We played it a lot live, and anyone who'd ever seen it live before has probably, I don't think anyone memorized the lyrics, but if they had videos or did, it definitely really changed. It definitely had a lot of not transient, but it changed a lot over time. Then you asked about the recording too. The recording was cool. We worked over at the sound shop on it again, and I had Darren and Phil both played on that song, which I think made it a lot more solid in the rhythm section than our previous stuff, because those two really connect, and I'm working with those guys more now in the future, and I'm really excited about it because they're probably the most badass rhythm section I've ever played with. So yeah,
It
yeah.
definitely just that whole the whole shop. Obviously with Kevin, the producer and mixer and all of that. Like he's incredible too.
Yeah, oh yeah, he is.
Definitely the way he does everything. But yeah, Darren and Phil are just it is like live and in studio. They nail it every time. They're just incredible musicians.
Mm-hmm. No, they absolutely are, and they're dependable, and you can count on them. You know, not just in the fact that you know they'll show up, but they're dependable musicians. As when they say they're going to learn the songs, they do. You know, I've worked with a lot of people who are like, "Yeah, I've been working on learning all these songs," and I'm like, "Okay, great," and then they're then they didn't, or they don't act. They might believe themselves that they actually know it, but they don't as much as they think they do. But yeah, those guys are great. And like you said too, Kevin, I can't thank enough for how much he's worked with me, and not just for working with me in the producer and mixing and all that, how much he's worked with me as like a person and a musician, and kind of like a mentor in a way, kind of like telling me like about, like the industry sucks, don't let it discourage you, like life advice stuff too, like on the industry, because it could be rough at times and stuff, but he's helped change a lot of my mentality on things. And yeah, he's definitely helped me become a better musician. I said this in an interview about him before, like when you suck, he tells you suck, and that's the best part, because you don't get better when everyone's just kissing your ass.
No, definitely. Like he would definitely point out, because I've talked to other people he's worked with. He's worked with many people, not only in the Detroit scene, but other places as well. And yeah, he definitely points out, like if there's something that's not right, he will definitely say that. And he wants the best product, the best music possible out of everyone he works with.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And that's the best part. And aside from the studio and the equipment and stuff there, and even his skills with mixing and stuff, really, in my mind, what you're paying for when you work with him is his criticism and his critiques, because he will go above and beyond to make sure you give the best performance you can give. And that's what I've always liked, because I've worked at a lot of other studios with a lot of other people in the past, and yeah, like in the end, it was my fault too. I could have been more self-critical, but there was a lot of stuff that came out that I didn't like as much, but I had wished people would have said something. So when I started working with him, like I said, really, I think you're paying for his expertise and his critique and stuff, because it's like there's been so many times where I sang something wrong and he's like, what the hell was that? Like, do it again. No, that still sucked. Do it again. Are you practicing? You practiced before you came in here, right? And I'm like, geez, it's only third take. I'll get it, man. But that's good. It's good. It's what makes it better, especially when you're someone who sings vocally like I do. And I'm always trying new things, and like in I Am the Fear, I think that's like the first song we put out where on the chorus I sing in that super high octave. That's not easy stuff to do, and that's not easy stuff to make sound good. And if you don't got someone on your side who's going to say, hey, you were flat through this whole part, then damn, you're going to be really embarrassed when that song comes out.
I really like the kind of progression that I Am the Fear has. Because obviously we talked about Work of Heart, which was obviously an album that was released beginning of this year, I want to say.
Yep, March.
Yeah. We talked about that, but I think definitely I Am the Fear, I think, is a progression on that sound that was Work of Heart.
Yeah, definitely. Yep. Yeah, I'd say so.
Because I know with that album, like the After Party, which I really enjoy off that album, because it's a little bit different. It's kind of more of like a more mellow rock, I would say, for the After Party. But like it kind of has that kind of little bit of familiar sound to it with like I Am the Fear.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah. Thank you. I appreciate that. And yeah, I'd say so. There's definitely there's definitely something to be said about like the types of chords and stuff we use, because it's not so much like 3 chord things, and there's a lot of diminished and augmented and stuff, and it gives things a darker sound at times, and other times, like After Party and that song both do that a lot, use a lot of diminished and uh like Aeolian fourths and stuff like that to just kind of give that dark, creepy vibe. So
It definitely, I think I Am the Fear definitely has kind of that more darker side to it. I very much enjoyed the whole song and the message behind it too. But like it does have there we go, does have the dark vibes to it. Jeez, it's hard to
yeah,
talk. But yeah, definitely a little bit on that dark side. But I think it's still a very good message in I Am the Fear as well.
thank you. Yeah, I appreciate it. Yeah, it's pretty cool the way it worked out, because well, I'll save this for when you start asking about the video stuff. How about that?
Okay, well, honestly, that was where I was going next. Because along with the single, you guys released an awesome looking music video for I Am the Fear. So, how was it filming the music video, and what was kind of the idea behind the music video?
Perfect. This was a perfect segue, because now I can just go right back to what I was saying. So it kind of worked out perfect, like what you were saying, with the song having like the creepier sound to it and the creepier vibe like that, because the music was already kind of creepy, but like the whole like chorus of it about, I'm the rage, I'm the fear, is like me like it's like an internal monologue after when you've been someone who's like spent a lot of time like being scared of yourself, and like being scared of like what you could do to yourself if you got in a bad enough state of mind, that sort of thing. And it's kind of like being like saying like, I can't be afraid of you because I am you. Like, you're me. Like, why am I afraid of this like little voice in the back of my head that's like, telling me you're worthless, you're not good enough? Like, why am I afraid of that little voice? Because I am the fear that comes from inside me. It's basically what I'm trying to say. It's like there's no reason to be scared of you. Like, I can get in control of this, like it's not like, like you're a person who I physically have to fight. This comes from inside me. I am the fear. I need to get a hold of it. So basically, with like the creepy, the like the creepy sound of it, and saying the words "I am the fear" and saying, you're really alive, this isn't a nightmare. It all kind of like worked out perfect to use like kind of like a horror based story as like a metaphor in the video. And that part of it was just like great, because it was so easy. I mean, I worked on writing that video for close to a year before we actually shot it, and there's other drafts of it and stuff like that, but it was like perfect to like make it like a nightmare, but also to be like a metaphor about like the struggle, internal battle of like ego and stuff like that. So yeah, so that it just worked out perfect with the sound of the music and stuff. Especially in the beginning, we added that reversed piano and like those synths, and it just like immediately like draws you into like this. I've always said that like I think the song would have done well in like the movie Donnie Darko. Like, not like the whole song, but just that like beginning part with like that creepy piano, and then it goes into the doom doom doom. Like, a movie like Donnie Darko, really eerie.
It definitely has the eeriness to it. And some of the scenes I really liked in the music video was like obviously there's you like looking in the mirror, but like you look down and there's someone behind you, but you look up, they're gone, or like the person sitting on the couch with the mask, like that kind of stuff, like the representation, like the kind of personification of like what is being said. You can see it visually throughout the whole music video.
Right. Yeah. Thank you. I'm glad that came off the right way. I was well, that once I seen the video finished, and I knew my friend was gonna do a good job on it. But even though I knew he was gonna do well on it, I still kind of had it in the back of my mind the whole time. My biggest concern was A, if it was gonna turn out cheesy, and if B, the message wasn't gonna be clear enough, and people are gonna be like, "This is supposed to be a music video. Why is it like a Halloween story?" And then it's like, oh, we failed because we didn't make the message clear enough that, like, yeah, it's cool and gimmicky that we made it like a Halloween nightmare story, but at the same time, it's a whole level deeper is what it's really about.
Yeah, no, I get you with like, with people, you put stuff out and you know what the message is, but sometimes it gets lost with people like actually watching it, or gets lost in the translation of it. And that's kind of a balance. You have to get the point across, but also kind of have to, go along with the story that it still makes sense. And
Yeah.
there is a balance with that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. Balance is everything in any sort of creative media. And I mean, more so or less, I'm fortunate being still small potatoes indie route to where I don't have to sacrifice as much to be commercial. And that balance, I guess the scales get tilted, weighted, whatever. The more commercial you get and the bigger you get, you know what I mean? The more followers and fans you have, and not so much nowadays, but definitely several years ago, there was definitely a huge dip in that scale of like between commercialism and actually getting your message out there. I personally think that like even like a lot of Cobain stuff, he was in charge of a lot of their music videos and stuff like that. I wish I'd one day have the chance to talk to Cobain, but that wouldn't happen. But I'd be willing to put money on it that if you could actually ask him alone, and he's kind of dabbled around with this question, I think a lot of his stuff would have been a lot better, or at least a lot more meaning and message in it if it wasn't so commercialized by the studios and the labels and stuff.
Yeah, I definitely agree with like their music videos. I mean, it was cool that at least got a little bit of control about the music videos, because they are a little bit out there with like their stuff. It was different. It
Yeah.
was very different for that time period of like it wasn't as shiny or clean looking as the kind of the music scene was. The music industry was like coming out of like hair metal, in the
Yeah.
late '80s, where
Mhm.
everything looked super polished, super clean. You had to have the eyeliner and the hairspray and everything. So going into that, it was very different for those
Yeah.
the early '90s.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's kind of my favorite part of the early 90s is that it was definitely, well, the early 90s is one of my favorite eras, as well as like some of the late 60s, early 70s. But I've always liked the eras where it's like, I call them like the FU eras, like where it's like big turning points, like the 90s, like for example, like how you said, coming out of the super clean, polished hair metal into like the underground grunge, doing like making like punk big again. And like, it's a different form of punk, but the same things bands were doing earlier on, MC5 and Iggy and the Stooges and stuff, same thing. But I really like whenever those happen, where the underground rises. That's my favorite eras of music.
Oh, definitely. Like, I'm a huge punk fan, and like just that mentality you can apply that to different styles of music. Like grunge had that punk underground kind of feel to it, with it as we don't really care what you think, we're going to do it anyway kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I kind of see that like nowadays, like like it's kind of commercialism is still there. It still makes money, but I don't see as many people being attracted to it. I think people are kind of liking like the underground kind of different. Not everything's the same kind of style of music that we're kind of seeing in the
Yeah.
last couple of years.
Yeah, I mean, I've really been noticing the trend too of you have what I call like pedestal persons, right? Like these really big stars. I've already been talking about Cobain, so we'll use him again. So like in the early 90s, like you had like these pedestal people, like you had like Cobain and Nirvana, you had Cornell, Soundgarden, Eddie Vedder, Pearl Jam, and they all were like really propped up on these huge pedestals. They got all the MTV airtime, they got all of the magazine placements, all that stuff, and there wasn't much left for anyone who wasn't up here. You know what I mean? So down here you have all these people, you have thousands of them, and then up here you only have a select few, and there wasn't a lot of scraps for the people all the way at the bottom of the pedestal to pick up. Well, what I'm noticing now with like TikTok and stuff like that, and I think it's pretty cool in a lot of ways, and I think it has some downfalls too, but you're not getting this pedestal starting to flip to where, especially with TikTok and stuff, I'm starting to notice these small circles like forming, you know what I mean? So where there's like almost like how local scenes should be, to where people are following a lot more smaller artists now rather than following a few big ones. They're following tons of small ones, and I think that's great in a lot of ways. It has some caveats to it, that's for sure, but
I definitely think like social media has really helped because like you know instead of like actually going out and meeting people, I mean you still do that for the shows, which is great. You can still build an audience, but I think it's cool like a lot of like underground and indie bands. You know they can't afford to go to Europe or go to Australia or other places like that, but they still have fans in there. And I know some bands are like bigger in like Australia than they are like here, and they're from here. You know, like it's so cool how with like the internet and everything that you're able to connect with fans who are in a completely different country than you.
yeah. Yeah, it definitely is. I get a lot of messages and comments from Ireland and Brazil, somewhere in South America, is two of our biggest markets. Ireland's our biggest, like by all of our
Right.
data. Ireland's our biggest market. But yeah, it's definitely really cool, and it's cool when we've done the live streams before and stuff to hear from people who are like, "That's so cool you did that," and like you need to come here one day. And I'm like like get 100 of your friends and all get together and buy tickets, and then then I don't know, I'll find a venue, I'll make it happen. But yeah, we can't just like go out on a limb and be like, okay, we got some people in Brazil or Ireland, whatever. But if there was a way to like Kickstarter it or something like that.
It would definitely be cool. Honestly, like it's not even like the playing at the venue or like once you're in Ireland or like another country, it's like that stuff's not as expensive. It's like just flying there. That's the most expensive and the hardest part. Like once you're there, but it's just getting there.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. And if you can work with the right people and pre-sale the tickets in order to make the deal, if you could work with like the right sort of person who's gonna, before the show's even like the fans think it's confirmed, but before it's technically even confirmed with the venue and stuff, be able to sell enough tickets to cover the expenses, then it works out great. There was the White Stripes originally were much bigger in New Zealand before America. They were on the radio over there. They were a pretty big band there, and they were going there to tour, and then they were coming back to Detroit, and Jack White was still, working in an upholstery shop and doing odd jobs and stuff. They weren't rock stars by any stretch of the truth at all. They were normal people, but yeah, they got out there because this one promoter really believed in them and maxed out his credit card putting on this tour for them in New Zealand. And it's cool to hear Jack White talk about it because they came home broke, but he's like, I got a free trip to New Zealand, though.
There's always something out of it.
Mhm.
It's kind of interesting where bands kind of get their following from. Like you were talking about like Detroit legends Iggy Pop and the MC5, but also another Detroit legend, Alice Cooper.
Yeah.
Got his band got huge in UK, like bigger than America. So like it was actually them kind of going to Europe was helping them fund their US dates because they would make money in the UK, then they would come back to the US, but it's really the UK really grasped onto them first.
Right. That's awesome. I never knew that, but I could totally believe it and see it. And yeah, that's happened. That's happened with a lot of artists. And I mean, vice versa too. There's artists that are from the UK and get big in America first, and then you know, stuff like that. I mean, we're the entertainment capital of the world, so it definitely is a lot more of the US perpetuating artists than other countries, but you do have like the outliers, like you said, like Alice Cooper in the UK and stuff, you know. But that's just because we just so happen to be the entertainment capital of the world. I mean, we have freaking Hollywood, you know. So
Yeah, between like Hollywood, Vegas, and New York, I mean,
hmm
all those put together. Like, I mean, America is a destination, but it's kind of cool to see those outliers of bands who got over to a different country first before America.
Oh yeah, absolutely. There's this awesome documentary on Netflix. It was on Netflix called Searching for Sugar Man, and it's about, I'm pretty sure he's from Detroit. I'm like 99% sure, but his artist name's Rodriguez, and he's a great singer, great songwriter, phenomenal songwriter. I love his songs are like poems, you know. They're just beautifully worded, great literary content in them and stuff. But this documentary is about, he was a huge star in Africa, huge star, but the record label didn't want to pay him. So since this was like the late 60s, early 70s, and there's no internet or anything like that, basically if no one called him, he didn't know. So like in the documentary they talk to a lot of people and stuff, and people are like, yeah, he's like, in our country Rodriguez is like synonymous with the Beatles. Like, you know, like if you like people know him just as much. Like there's not like people that it's a household name like the Beatles. So basically in this documentary they're trying to find the guy and like tell him like, hey, you're a huge star in Africa, and he gets to go there and play a huge show and stuff. It's really touching and heartwarming. But then like the sad part about it is when they get into like the whole money side, that like basically the label he was on, since he was failing so bad in America and had like no success in America other than like a radio play here or there, they basically were like, oh, we got to recoup our money. Let's just not tell him he's making all this money from Africa, even though he had like #1 hits over there and gold records, you know?
Yeah, I think someone was telling me about that. Like, it was a few months ago. I vaguely remember something like that. So I'm gonna check that out on Netflix. But I mean, that's kind of unfortunately the music industry with labels doing that and stuff. I mean, but I mean, it's cool. Someone eventually told him, dude, you were huge in Africa, and you got to play a show there. But there is also the dark side of it, for the
Yeah.
record label.
Oh yeah. Yeah, but you know, just you know, back into what you were saying about people making it elsewhere. I mean, that right there, I just brought up that example because it's the most extreme one I've heard. You know what I mean? I never thought that'd be possible to be a superstar in a different country and not find out about it for 40, 50 years later, you know?
It's so weird again, like with where people get their audience from, where people grasp onto certain artists and stuff. It's always very interesting, but it's also very cool to hear different stories like that as well.
Absolutely, you know. Music is it's like I'll use this one. I didn't want to use this because everyone's so germophobic nowadays, but I was gonna say music's really like a virus. There's not, you know, one way of getting it. There's not any certain way that works. There's bands that have gotten super popular in the underground without any radio support, you know. There's bands that have gotten super popular without any label support, you know. It's not a cut and dry business, you know, where it's like with other businesses where it's like get investors and do this and do that and exponential growth and, you know, scaling up and everything. Like no, it's great. It's like an infection, you know.
Definitely for sure. Um, but also getting back to I Am the Fear. So there's a familiar voice that people should be familiar with at the beginning of the music video. People, if you've seen it, you should know it is me because I literally say my name. But so how did that idea come up, and what kind of made you think of that for the video?
Uh so yeah, so originally like with doing it, I needed a way to show, because I wanted the video to take place on Halloween. And then the other thing is the symbolism of the numbers on the alarm clock and stuff. So in the beginning in the video, spoiler alert for anyone who hasn't seen it, is like it takes place in like a dream state, like a nightmare state, Now, whether you want to believe it's delusion or actually a nightmare or hallucination, whatever, that's up to you and your own interpretation. But it's like a dreamlike state. So the symbolism in the numbers is big to me because, for one, when you're dreaming, and if you read anything about lucid dreaming or anything like that, one of the big telltale signs that you're in a dream, you're conscious in a dream, is you can't read time. Clocks are always all messed up. So that was a big part to me. And then, like, with the clock changing from 8:57 to 6:66 and stuff, which 6:66 isn't in there because of Satanism or anything. It's in there because that number got referred to with Satanism, because it's actually, people say number of the beast. Yes, I guess, but at base level, it really just means fear. So I was like, wow, I wanted to use a different number because I feel like that number is really overused, like a lot in rock and metal too. But then when I was doing like research on numbers and angel numbers and symbolism of numbers, it was just too perfect. I'm like, how can I, when the song's called I Am the Fear and it's about fear, how can I not use the one number that's most known for meaning fear? But anyway, so yeah, back to the whole radio thing. The thing I couldn't figure out was how we were going to tell people it was Halloween. So I had like the idea of like a calendar with like the date circled and all that, but then I really liked the idea of having like the radio alarm clock, because we already knew there was going to be an alarm clock in it, because we liked the whole trope of it and using that, because number one, we had to figure out how we were going to get the numbers into this. So we really liked the idea of alarm clock because of like the trope and stuff like that. And then I personally wake up a lot of mornings to a radio alarm clock where it turns on the radio. And so yeah, I just really liked the idea of it, and I really liked the idea of having it sound like the song was being played on the radio by the radio DJ and stuff like that. So yeah, we basically, me and my team talked about it, and everyone thought it was a super cool idea. I'm laughing because as I was about to say super cool idea, I didn't realize that the next thing I was segueing into was, then I started, limiting down who I knew could do it. And I was like, yeah, my buddy at Super Cool Radio, I was like, he's got a great voice for it, and I'm sure he'd be more than willing to do it. And yeah, and then that's how we got it done.
Yeah, dude, I really appreciate the opportunity. It was a lot of fun because I sent you 6 or 7 different ones. I
Mm-hmm.
was like, I'm gonna try a different filter on this, or I'll say it like this, or change my name, or add different effects or whatever. So I was just messing around, just seeing like what would sound good. So I was like, I can't really pick one, so here's a bunch.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. No, it was it was really cool. I was glad you had fun with it, and I could tell listening to all the recordings. I was like, all right, this is great, because he had fun with it, and he you could, when people have fun with things and they're passionate about it like you were, they always turn out better. That's the thing too, is like people with less talent can succeed more when they're passionate. You could have a super talented person with no passion, they're always going to do worse than the less talented person with more. Not saying neither of us are talented, but I'm just saying that passion counts a lot more than talent. So yeah, when I was listening to all the recordings you sent me, I was like, all right, I was like, this is great, because I liked all of them. So then that's the best part, is when it's like, okay, let's limit this down, because when you have 7 or 8 that you sent me, 7 or 8 things that are good and will work, then it's like, okay, cool. Because if everything scores a 99%, then one of these is an A double plus. Now we just gotta figure out which one and why exactly.
Yeah, no, definitely it was a cool experience for me, and I know like let's see, you emailed me like the week or messaged me whatever. I was like in Cleveland that weekend, so I was like, well, I'm so interested, but just give me a few days when I get back and I can record this. And I didn't exactly know like what to go for, so that's why I just sent you a bunch of different ones. Like I know I put a demon filter on one of them just to make it spooky. So I was like, I don't really know what the objective here, so I'm just gonna make them all
Right.
sound
Yeah.
completely different so that they would fit like something.
Mm-hmm. No, and it was cool that you gave us all those options, and that we had it inspired us too. And we ended up like how you said, you put like the filter on the one to make the voice more demonic, and it was originally discussed if we wanted to use that one in the beginning of the video and then have the normal voice one in the end, so that it was like in the dream state, it sounded more demonic. But then we figured it'd just be best if we use the same one beginning and end this way, because again, like, spoiler alert, then it makes it not entirely a closed loop. We lead this whole video, you know, I wake up in bed at the end with the same radio broadcast playing and stuff, but this time the clock's normal. It says 8:59. So you're led to believe that I woke up and that it was all a dream, but at the same time, there's purposely and intentionally a lot of plot fails to make it be like, but wait a minute. And if you go back to the video and you really pay attention to it, there's a lot of things that, if it was supposed to be intentionally fully leading you to be a dream, there's a lot of plot fails in it, being like, wait, this wouldn't happen. Why would that happen? Oh, they screwed up. But it's not screw ups in the storyline. It's things intentionally, loose ends that weren't tied up intentionally to make people, you know, you might not get it the first, second, third time, but upon, like, you know, a few times watching it, you start to notice and be like, wait a second, but this happened. So, you know, was it a dream? And, you know, things like that. So
It's kind of cool that, as you said, the kind of open loop where it's really up to the person watching it that, like, they can determine stuff. Like, I don't know if you're familiar with the movie American Psycho. I honestly, one of my favorite movies. I really enjoy that movie just because it's so up to the person of what is real, what isn't, or is any of this real, or is this all real? And I think that's really cool to leave that up to the listener and the viewer, because then they can make their own determination. And honestly, if you polled 10 people, you get like almost 10 different answers of what is actually going on.
Right. Yeah, and that's my favorite way to do things. And that's because too is I really like to do things like that because I don't just create for myself. I'm definitely not vain in this, and it's not, to me, it's not so much about being like a rock star or some sort of, you know, rock god or creative, whatever you call the video end of things, some sort of creative type, whatever. A lot of it to me is like helping other people and like kind of like gifting them the music to like be like, oh, okay, you know, I'm not alone in these feelings and stuff. So I also like to leave things really open to interpretation so people could put more behind it than I originally meant, you know. I've had people tell me before, like, yeah, I got this and that out of this song, and I'm like, that's amazing. And but then at the same time, I'm like thinking, like, I never intended for that. Like, it's amazing you got that out of the song, but that's what I like about leaving things open like that too, is it allows people to put their own like their own impression on it and take out of it what they want to get out of it. Because at the end of the day, that's what it's all about to me, is take out of it what you want out of it, not what I want you to get out of it.
I think that's a really good mindset, especially for music, especially to have people put their own spin on it. But like, yeah, I this is my understanding of it, and I know like some bands, like, they won't tell like their meaning behind the songs because they want people to make their own opinions instead of being influenced by people. And I think it's really cool just to, because like, again, you listen to music, you listen to different types of music, and it's going to mean different types of things to everybody. It's very subjective with everything, and I think that's kind of the cool nature of music, is how subjective it is, that people can take different things from it and apply it to their own life.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. That's definitely one of my favorite things about any sort of art and creation is the subjectiveness. That subjective is the word I was looking for a minute ago, you know. And like you said, yeah, I like to talk sometimes on. I did that interview with Nerds Order Music with Zach about the last album, and he asked me a lot of questions about what things meant and stuff. And I told him I don't mind telling people when they ask, and I don't mind people watching that interview and finding out my emotions and stuff on it. But the whole thing that can't be understated enough is like, this isn't all that it means just because that's what I was talking about. If it means something else to you, then let it be. You know, I have it's funny, Slick Rick has been promoted somehow, and I even have friends that have told me it as like a workout song. I think just because it's upbeat and it's like heavy and it's got like rap style, very quick vocals and stuff. But I have a friend who told me, he's like, yeah, every day at the gym I listen to Slick Rick. That song gets me amped. And on Spotify for artists, it's gotten it got a couple thousand of the streams it has. I think it's like close to 10,000. A couple thousand of them came from like heavy workout rock. So it's funny to me because that song is about it deals with a lot of societal issues, but just to see that like to a lot of people it's just a workout song, I think that's freaking great. You know, like hey, it doesn't always need to be deep and stuff. If the beat amps you up to do your curls, screw it, that's awesome. That's what you get out of it, you know.
Yeah, that song really does rock. I guess maybe it's also the societal issues with it really get people amped up and ready to go. But no, definitely. I mean, that's a great song. I really do like it. And yeah, I've watched the interview with Zach and Nerds Order. Really great guy. And just a quick thing, I got to give a big thank you to doing the intro music for his First Listen Media for our
Oh yeah, no
broadcast we
problem.
did, which it was cool. He's a great guy to work with. I really like working with him, and he cares a lot about everything he does, and you can really tell with everything.
Yeah, definitely. He definitely does, and so do you. That's why I like to like bring. I brought you in on the I Am the Fear project, and I hope one day to bring Zach in on something when I have something open for him. You know, to bring him into something because both you guys do. You put a lot of time into what you do. And you guys are very. I'm sure there's an element of selfishness to it, but from what we see in the band's point of view is you guys are very selfless about it. You guys are about the bands and about what I like too is you guys are more about the music than the bands. That's cool, you know, because especially like we don't have a lot of stories and rock star moments and stuff yet. So like it's cool to be able to talk about the music and the projects and people care about that rather than being like, you know, wanting to hear like the stories like about the groupies and the backstage hot tub and stuff, you know. Because there's that out there and there's people out there that for some reason think even when you're indie like you're doing that. Don't get me wrong, we got our crazy stories, but I'd just rather talk about the projects than, you know.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of podcasts out there that do stuff like that. I think that's cool. It's got an audience for that, but also I do think like this is the music of it, and I kind of focus more on like the people who like the music. Like obviously this is supposed to be entertaining. It's a podcast. It has to be entertaining. But I think not a lot of people get asked these music questions. Like I've talked to a lot of people, and it's like, wow, you asked me questions about my music. I'm surprised, and I'm like, okay. I mean, that's why that's why I want to talk to you is because of the music.
Right, yeah.
But yeah, no, it's really cool, and it's cool. Like working with him, as I said, is awesome. Just because he has that same kind of level of passion, and we work very well together because of that. And obviously, there's a little bit of selfishness with it because I obviously I love doing this,
Mm-hmm.
obviously, and part of it is for me, but honestly, it's mostly to promote great music that I think should be listened to, that should have a platform because unfortunately right now there's a lot of I think some gatekeeping with keeping some indie bands out just because of like their numbers aren't high enough or like they don't have a big enough audience and I'm like so what, it's good music.
Yeah, exactly. There's a ton of gatekeeping with it, and there's it's a really dirty business, and there's a really nasty side to the industry. When we the label we put Work of Heart out with, they've been pretty good to us, and I won't talk about them for that reason. But I will say I'm trying to get ready to do the next project. It's probably going to be an EP instead of a full length. Trying to find label support for that. What you find a lot of times is, like you said, the numbers. And it's not that these labels don't tell me and the guys, whatever, that we're talented or that we have good music. They want to see the business end of things, right? And a lot of it is like kind of the way our last deal went was, okay, we'll put X amount of money into it if you put X amount of money into it. And do you have these financial assets prepared? I had we had over the summer we had a meeting with a very high, I don't know how much people want to be talked about, so I won't use names or what bands, but a very high profile manager who you definitely know of. I'll put it this way: one of the bands he's worked with recently has several #1 hits and stuff, and they're one of the biggest bands out there right now. we were fortunate enough to get a meeting with him, and basically what he told us was, well, one of his first questions, you know, we got the meeting with him because he liked the music, thought we were talented, was, what's your guys' budget for this? It was like, we could probably scrape together a couple grand. And basically the meeting in short was, give me a call when you guys have like $50,000 to work with, you know. So like you were saying, there's a lot of numbers mentality in this and stuff like that, and a lot of disappointment that goes into it by all these doors that we've been. I mean, I've been doing this for over 10 years now. You know, I've been doing it semi-professionally or professionally, where I've known the industry side more for like 5 now. And all these doors you try to knock down and all these meetings you try to get, and you finally get them, and basically they're like, yeah, this is what it comes down to. Now, I'm not saying the right people aren't out there who won't like fully prop you up and stuff, but then there's the moral caveats that come with that, and how much of your creative control do you want to lose, and all that sort of thing. So
There, again, we're talking about balance of the music video. There is definitely balance between giving up creative control for what you get in return. I do know, like there's a lot of that with them, especially at the bigger labels. The more control they have, and obviously the more money they take. Because I've talked to some, and it's like they take 40% of everything, like tour and studio and endorsements, everything, 40% right off.
Yep.
And it is a little bit of a dirty industry with everything. But obviously, I obviously with some of the people I work there's definitely some light in the industry. I'm not obviously not everyone is like that, and there's not every label is like that and all that. But unfortunately, there's quite a few out there.
Yeah, no, yeah, and don't get me wrong, there's definitely a lot of great people out there who do it for the love of it and stuff like that, and a lot of great people who you know, they're willing to help you succeed and help you financially and stuff, but they're just a lot harder to find because there's a lot more, you know, like some of the labels, like I said, I won't say names, but I've spoken with, I just talked to one the other day actually. These aren't, when I say like indie labels aren't the same way. These are more like major labels and
Yeah.
stuff like that, and they basically look at you as like an investment, and they want to see, like, it's not just about the music when you speak with these people. They want to see what your merch numbers are. I mean, sometimes they don't even care as much about like your Spotify numbers as they care about your live show numbers or your merch numbers, and they want to know how much money is being spent each month for how much money's coming in. And it's like, whoa, wait, this is why I'm trying to get a label, because I don't freaking know this stuff, you know? Then you find out, oh, I got to know this stuff just to get a deal, you know?
It's definitely. I mean, they treat it very much like a corporate business. Everything's by the numbers. Everything is just numbers for them, and the art gets a little bit lost in it. That's why, like, I've heard quite a few like major label bands or formerly major label bands that were very unhappy with their record labels and were still owed money or didn't get the royalties or stuff like that. I know some cases are still even going on.
Yep. Yeah, definitely. And there's that whole factor to it. And but one good thing is too, nowadays with everything we have, is we're moving further and further away to where you don't need a label. You can really do this on your own. Like, you can self promote, you can use TikTok, Instagram, Facebook. You can meet great people like you and do the indie interviews with it, stuff like that. We live in like a really good world for it now, you know. To be able to do that, comes down to it where you almost need them still, is the finance thing, you know. And depending how much you want to work and do this, the financial aspect of it's kind of the big thing. And I'm sure you listen to just as many podcasts as I do of other musicians. What you find out a lot is labels aren't like this, like, hey, you give us your album and we make you a star. No, you're still out there doing all the footwork. You're still out there getting your own interviews. They might kind of, you know, open some doors for you with press and stuff. But at the end of the day, it's still up to you to do the photo shoot or the interview. And um, really, they're like a bank. It's like an interest loan. They're just a bank that's more willing to finance a musician than a regular one. Like a band like Gaslight Anthem, for example, they always joke around about putting on their album Chase Records, because when they did like their fourth album, they got tired of working with the labels. I think they're on Hopeless for a while, or maybe Victory or Vagrant, but they got tired of working with the labels for whatever reason. And I'm not talking bad about those labels, but they already said what they said, so that's between them. But so they went to Chase Bank, and they had enough of a track record of selling merch and selling albums and stuff that they funded the album and the promotion and the marketing and everything else by taking a loan from Chase Banks instead of a record label, you know. So they always joke around about calling their record label Chase Records.
It's kind of fun. I mean, it would be interesting if Banks got into like record label, like, you know, just bankrolling bands.
Mm-hmm.
I think it'd be that might be something.
Right.
It's just a business, pretty much a business transaction. That's all it is.
Right. Yeah. You know, it is, and you can definitely do it, but you need a lot of data and bookkeeping to show.
Oh, yeah.
You know,
And a big line of credit.
yeah. Yep. Exactly.
But let me wrap up this interview again. Jake Jones of Red Brick Road making a third appearance, stopping by on Super Cool Radio. I'm going to leave a link for his music video, I Am the Fear, in the description. But if anyone is interested, where can they find Red Brick Road on the internet?
Redbrickroadrocks.com would be the best spot. It's got pretty much all of it on there. YouTube at this point, just search Red Brick Road. I used to give the URL, but we're pretty much all that pops up now if you search us on YouTube. So just search it. Facebook, Red Brick Road MI, and Instagram's at Red Brick Road Music.
I'm going to leave some links for that in the description. Make sure to check it out. And so as I wrap up this interview, what is the plans for the rest of this year? Because obviously we're in November. And what's kind of the outlook for 2022?
We're gonna be working on more music. I have some studio time. I think it's this weekend, actually. I gotta look at it. Is I'm gonna be working on some new stuff. There won't be anything released for the rest of this year, and I think as far as people will see publicly for the rest of this year, we'll be working behind the scenes on next year's stuff, but I don't think you'll see anything else from us this year except I Am the Fear. I Am the Fear will be promoted through the end of the year, and then early next year there'll definitely be an EP or something. There'll be a new single in the beginning of the year, and then next year around the spring when Work of Heart came out, an EP or some format of another nice chunk of stuff. Like I said, I don't think it's going to be an album. I've been doing like a lot of research on marketing and how we should really be going about this, and albums aren't really doing what they used to. We love making them, but that doesn't mean, you know, we need to do it. So yeah, then next year will be full steam ahead again. But right now, I mean, really the way I'm looking at it, there's not much time left in the year, because if you take away Thanksgiving and Christmas week, I mean, there's only a month left now. So not too much more this year, my man.
No, definitely. I understand. It's really, you know, as you said, just about a month. But I definitely look forward to seeing what you got in store for next year. Look forward to listening to some more new music. But definitely stream support. Give a like to Red Brick Road. Check out I Am the Fear. Plus, you get to hear a really nice cameo by this guy right here.
It's pretty sweet. I can say so myself.
Jay, thank you so much for stopping by on Super Cool Radio. I'm your host, as always, Matthew Thomas. You've been watching and listening to Super Cool Radio. Stay frosty.